All right. Take three of meaning and depression. So, here's some unsolicited advice. There is there is a funny little paradox between meaning and non-meaning, which I'm sure you've heard of. It kind of goes like this. The fact that there is no meaning inherent to anything besides what we project from our little monkey brains reflexively means that there is inherently meaning. Because all of a sudden, no meaning means freedom. It means that the meaning that you ascribe has causal value. Because you believe it, and if you act on it, effect is caused. and and your ideas about meaning, those are meaningful too, because they're going to shape your actions. But it's going to be shaped along this sort of general trend that emotions move us, upon which emotions move us. What do I mean by that? I've always loved this little chart by this guy named David Hawkins. If you're into spiritual stuff, there's a significant chance that you've heard of him. If you haven't heard of him, you look up the scale, calibrated levels of consciousness, and look for the scale that has, not just the number, because he has them on a level of I think it's 20 to 1,000, where 1,000 is the peak of human potential, and then 20 is the lowest possible state of being a human can embody or act by. And down at the bottom of that scale, you have a lot of anti-life motivations and ideas and worldviews. At the bottom there is shame. And when you're depressed, you're feeling super low energy. You're feeling kind of, and even when you're not, even when you have a very busy schedule and you have lots of people you need to see, you are forcing yourself through every single second of that. And what you're forcing yourself through is this mental deadness. And it's not a mental stillness. It's not a quietude. Although it's kind of like a cousin to that. Your mind can be very loud in that state. And when it's not loud, you just feel so uninspired. Right? So that's the two sides of the spectrum. You have this sort of deadness, and then you have stillness. Stillness, in its right view, gives you freedom and energy and power. Whereas this depressed deadness, it limits you. It defines you along this very narrow stretch of meaning that you buy into. And it's not really your fault. This whole thing is reflexive. It's your responsibility, but it's not your fault. Your relationship to the lack of meaning is what the problem is. It's not the lack of meaning itself. Because right now, I can just flow and feel and sense just whatever's here. And I can ascribe no meaning to it. Even the meaning mechanism of the brain that sputters out and projects memories. This is this is that, this is this is that. I can just watch it. It's just there. And to an extent, it is me. I'm not fully awake. But I'm awake enough to know kind of the territory, at least around what I'm talking about here. It's very interesting territory, and it's very inspiring territory. It's inspiring to know that there's something beyond you. There's something beyond your view. It's really important to recognize that. Otherwise, you're just arrogant. You're just this naive, ignorant fool who believes everything that they're thinking. And that's not your fault. But it is your responsibility. That's what growing up is, isn't it? It's taking responsibility. It's cleaning up your room. It's cleaning up your mental house and your physical house. It's taking responsibility. Not just your outer circumstance, but for your inner circumstance. Even more primarily your inner circumstance. Because how else are you supposed to carry your burden? How else are you supposed to carry your cross? How else are you supposed to march, across whatever that city was? Was it Jerusalem? Where was Nazareth? No, wherever Jesus was crucified, right? So if you're following what I'm saying, essentially, the idea that everything is meaningless is not a weapon with which to beat yourself down or others, right? It's not, look, it can be an excuse to go wild and, fuck shit up and hurt people and hurt yourself and do nothing and rot away. Sure, you can do that. But there's an alternative, and it's an alternative that is available to you. And if you spent your whole life low, then yeah, it'll take some time to get in touch with it. But I know for a fact you've had moments where it's like all of a sudden in some mental plane, the sun just starts shining. And you're just like, oh, this is what it feels like to be normal or inspired. Or maybe you have like a creative art that you can lose yourself in and you can get swept away with positive emotions and these tiny little beautiful little pockets of meaning and joy and beauty that you carve out for yourself. And that, if you pay attention in that contrast, you can start to sow the seeds of like, okay, I don't always feel like shit. And when I do feel like shit, I have a very different definition about who I am, what the world is, and what I'm capable of versus these other moments where it's like I'm motivated and I can do this and I can do that. I just have to follow through with this and that. And then I wake up the next day and it's all shit again, right? And so you're feeling depressed. You're like, oh, it never lasts. The positivity never lasts. It's like, no. Positivity is a skill, and it's not toxic positivity. It's like this real, genuine inspiration to act in the world, and it transcends and includes the shame and the guilt. That's the key. That's what a lot of people are missing. You can avoid them, and you can find meaning in another domain. You can push through, and that does work for quite a few people. You can do that, and it's better than nothing, really. So if that works for you, more power to you. But there's something even better than that, and that's not avoiding what you're feeling. That is having the courage to assume, have the deluded courage, the insane notion, assume that everything that's happening is for the best. What? How could you say that? Do you know who's getting abused? I've been abused. How can you say it's for the best? I've had so much pain. Assume it is for your own good. I know. How could I say that? I say that because I've been through tough shit. I've known people who've been through tough shit. And they go along the journey of including the pain, including it in this expanded person who they want to become. They don't avoid the pain. They get to know it. They understand it. They deconstruct it. They don't push it away. They don't kill it. They forgive it. Forgiveness, if you looked at the chart while I was talking, if you looked at that chart, you will see that the process, the emotional process, that's what I was talking about before when I said that how the emotions will move you and they keep you like living this narrow little life. The process, the way acceptance moves you is forgiveness. It's forgiveness. Have you ever done something so utterly mundane, so utterly void of negativity or positivity that you had no trouble just letting pass right through you, right? Like you woke up in the morning, maybe you watched a show, and you don't even remember what happened. You just remember that it was somewhat pleasant, right? But you weren't. There was no blame of yourself. There's no blame on the show, or the food, or the meal, right? Or hell, anything. Maybe you have a vice, some sort of addiction, and you're not even ashamed of it, right? Or like some sort of guilty pleasure. When you're enjoying something, you have naturally forgiven it. You've already moved beyond, right? You have accepted it. You've embraced it. That is what forgiveness truly is. Right? So if you can get to a point where it's like, oh fuck, there's no meaning. I don't want to do anything. What's the fucking point anyways? Right? And then once you have that thought, at least you know this thought, it's like it's not gonna work out. Oh my god, nothing ever works out for me. I'm such a loser. I'm so dumb. I'm so ugly. You know. You can have all those thoughts come up, all those emotions, and yet you can get to a point where like there's this background of yeah, keep going, cool, awesome. Now back to what I was doing, right? Like there's no blame. It's just like you just give yourself the space, and it's like all the negativity lasts for like a split second, and then once it's done, it's gone, and you're back. You're just back. You're like, I'm back, baby. Let's go. Let's do this, right? And it's like the period of bullshit that you let yourself go through is just shorter and shorter and shorter, and the feeling of it gets shallower and shallower and shallower. And it doesn't feel like you're stuck in this miasma of mental muck, of fog. And every time that does come back, it's just a passing cloud in a very bright blue sky. It's just there, and there's just so much more sky to enjoy. You know? So you can forgive meaninglessness. You can forgive your meaningless existence and then embrace infinite possible meaning. Maybe not infinite. Maybe there's a hard cap, right? Because of our humanity, right? Like you take infinity, but then you give it this little cone of potentiality, and you are that little cone, right? It's like you're born, and there's so many ways that your life can go, but as you learn certain things and like you make certain choices, those paths kind of settle you into a more narrow cone, right? Your degrees of freedom narrow. But what if you could unlearn who you've become? Then all of a sudden your horizons start to expand again. It sounds kind of bullshitty, I know. Logically, it's gonna make sense to those of you who haven't really looked into this shit. I get that. I understand. It's a necessary part of the process to be like, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about, man? But, like, hand on heart, if there is truth to my words and you are open to it, may it resonate through your life in, like, miraculous, beautiful ways. May you see this gorgeous freedom, this optimism even. And optimism, if you're looking at the chart, ain't even that high compared to where you can be. Because here's the cool thing about the chart is like every level you go up is like more powerful than the last iteration, the last step up. So by the time you're getting up to the 400s, the level of reason, but the difference between the level 400 and 401 is greater than the level between 300 and 301. And so when you're up in the levels of love, the step between 500 and 501 is even greater than 400 and 401. It's just more power available to you. And that power is your passion. It's your joy. It's your bliss. And that's where shit starts to get wooey. And that's where I'm going to lose a bunch of people. And that's where I would have lost myself. Like 7 or 8 years ago. If I'd have heard this stuff, I would have thought, man, I'm sorry that you gotta believe so much bullshit. I would have said to myself, I'm sorry you gotta be so delusional. That you gotta, what do they say is that you gotta dope yourself up with mental dopamine in order to be able to live day to day. But I would just laugh and I would say, look, it's all delusion in the end. You look at a crow, that's not a crow. That's just this complex of the color that's not even black. We call it black, right? It's just this sensate phenomena that we give a name to and we associate with memories, and that's not even what that is. That's a new thing. That's a new object that you're just projecting past objects onto. It's all delusion. It's all illusion. It's all a dream. That's all it is. That's all you've ever known. Right? So choosing what you want to believe about something is just going along with what you're already doing, but doing it in a way that actually makes you come more alive. So there's really no problem with it, right? Because you can do it in a way that doesn't affect anybody else, and it's no one else's business, honestly. So have the courage to be delusional. Decide what you want your life to mean for yourself, right? And when I say that, and when you actually start to try it, you're gonna realize you're gonna have a lot of resistance to it because you want to be who you are, no matter how shitty, no matter how unbearable it is. And that's when you start to realize that your emotions have never really been logical. They've always, the reflexive emotions, I should say, they haven't been logical. They've only been about proliferating something that you know you can survive. Some sort of it proliferates an attachment to an idea, to an identity that you need to believe in order to navigate your environment. And there's this whole psychology to that includes, feeling unworthy of love, feeling like you're incomplete and you need to complete yourself in order to be loved. But that's 101. So let's not get into that right now. If you want to learn more, just intend to. Just intend to know it. And maybe straight away you'll have a memory of this time in high school when you learned about such and such, and oh, there it is. Or maybe the pieces will sort of assemble in your life, and then one day you wake up with a eureka and you're like, I get it. Just intend to. That's how powerful you are. The universe will contort itself around your reason, around the meaning you give your life. And that'll shape the very world you live in. So choosing what you want to believe is magical, it's beautiful, it's liberating. And it all starts with having the courage to just be open to a meaningless life. Don't give meaning to your memories. Don't give meaning to the ideas that you have about what's going on right now. You don't need it. You can use it. It's pragmatic. You still gotta deal with people day to day. It's fine. You can do that. And you can do that from a place of meaninglessness, of stillness, of an empty mind, not a dead mind, a quiet mind, an accepting, joyful mind, a disciplined mind. There is a difference, and it means a whole world of difference. It's literally like night and day. The whole world opens up for you. So that's what I want you to consider. Peace.